Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're talking about two cases that's both sad and really scary. Imagine it's just a normal day in your neighborhood, kids playing, people chatting, everything feels safe. But then, out of nowhere, a young boy goes missing. No warning, no clues, just gone. This is the story of 11-year-old Gannon Stauch from Colorado. His sudden disappearance shocked everyone. What happened to him? How could something so terrible happen in a place that felt so safe? Stick around as we break down the case and find out the truth behind what really happened. You won't want to miss this one. Colorado Springs looks like a picture. It's in the middle OT Colorado and has quiet streets, nice neighbors, and that cozy small-town feel where everyone is like family. The boy in this scene, Gannon Stauch, was 11 years old. He liked to smile and play computer games, and he was known for having a kind heart. It was a cold winter day on January 27th, 2020, while Gannon's dad, Albert, was at work. He was at home with his stepmother, Letitia. It was just another day at first, but by the evening, everything had changed. Gannon was not there. How would you feel that you were his parent, or even just his friend at that moment? Scared? Rear? A strong desire to track him down? That's precisely what took place in Colorado Springs late in the afternoon. The first warning went off. Gannon had gone to a Trian's house and not come back, so Letitia called the cops. At first glance, it looked like a kid who was just interested in time lost track of it. But as the hours and days went by, things got worse. The search for Gannon began right away. Together, neighbors searched parks, roads, and backyards. Gannon's father, Albert, rushed home from a business trip, clearly scared and determined to find his son. The cops joined the search. A room full of family photos, Gannon's favorite video game console on his bed, and the sound of his dad calling his name, hoping to hear a response that never came. It looked like Gannon had disappeared. Letitia was questioned by the cops. She stuck to her story. Gannon had walked away to see a friend. But something wasn't right. That day, no one in the neighborhood had seen him. How did Letitia act? You wouldn't have thought that from someone in her position. When a neighbor showed security camera video, it was a big step forward. It showed Gannon and Letitia getting out of the house together in her truck. After several hours, the truck came back, but only Letitia caught out. Now the important question is, where did Gannon go and he didn't come back with her? The more important question is why she wasn't saying anything. The investigation starts. Officer Sarah Carter was given the case to handle. She had a lot of knowledge, was smart, and was known for being able to spot mistakes. Saran knew right away that something wasn't NGHD when she met Teteria. Letitia told the police, "He must have just run away." But Detective Carter asked, what 11-year-old boy leaves his lacket behind in the middle of winter? She first knew something was wrong when STE saw that. Sarah began to dig. The Stauch family home was the first place to look. At first, everything seemed fine, but then the forensic team found a small spot of blood in Gannon's bedroom, which changed everything. Tests proved it was Gannon's, even though it wasn't very noticeable. Letitia had a hard time explaining it to Sarah when she asked her about it. At first, she said Gannon hurt himself by mistake. Then she said someone from outside the family broke into the house and hurt her, and Canon Detective Carter also didn't believe it. If someone attacked them, why aren't there any signs of a fight? She asked herself. It was like putting together a puzzle where the pieces wouldn't fit. Asterisk detectives didn't give up. They learned that Letitia had rented a car soon after Gannon went missing. That little thing sent up a red flag. She already had a truck, so why rent a car? It felt like chasing shadows during the probe. As soon as the cops thought they had an answer, Letitia threw them another serpent. First, she said that a stranger had attacked her in her own home, but there was no proof to back up her story. Then she said that Gannon might have been taken by a person they knew. The cops didn't believe it. Carter knew that lies often have holes in them. There were so many holes in Letitia's story that she couldn't keep track of them all. Things got really weird after this, though. Asterisk Letitia's actions became less stable, while the search for Gannon was still going on. She packed her bags and moved out of state. She didn't want to do interviews or answer calls. and she even tried to lie to the cops by blaming other people. At the same time, forensic evidence from her hired car led police to a remote area of land. They found Gannon's blood and other things that were connected to him there. After a few weeks, Letitia was caught. Once Gannon was gone for 2 months. Though, things really turned strange. Under a bridge in Florida, more than one, 400 miles away from Colorado Springs, his body was found stuffed in a bag. In what way does a Colorado boy who went missing end up in Laredo? Also, why would someone do something so bad to hide their tracks? The puzzle pieces finally fit together in court. There was proof that LaTecla hurt Gannon on the day he went missing. She tried to hide it by making up lies and setting up scenes. It was like a chain reaction. There was one lie after another until the truth could no longer be hidden. The police found that LaTecla was having a hard time with being a mom. She was stressed out and overloaded. That didn't make her act okay, but it did show how she was thinking. It didn't take the jury long to decide what happened. Letitia was given a light sentence in all, without the chance of parole, after being found guilty of first-degree murder. Albert Gannon's family and his father felt like the hearing was fair, but it didn't make them feel better. Albert told the judge at the sentence, "Gannon was our light. Everyone who knew him was happy around him. We will always love him and never forget him." The people of Colorado Springs were shocked. People in the neighborhood started to look at each other differently, and parents held their kids a little tighter. The case was a harsh warning that danger can appear where you least expect it. How well do we really know the people we trust with our loved ones? That's the main point. Could this happen in your town? In your area? You should ask these questions. There is sadness in Gannon's story, but there is also strength in it. People are still moved by his memory to speak out. Be alert and help those who can't help themselves. In another case that shocked the entire nation, you will be surprised to know how family superstition resulted in. If you've ever thought that real-life mysteries are more shocking than anything you could see in a movie, then you're in for a wild ride. This case is about two people, Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, whose beliefs and actions led to a disaster so unimaginable. It has left people all over the world stunned. What starts as a strange, almost cult-like belief system quickly spirals into one of the most heartbreaking murder cases you can imagine. Their story involves love, death, and an obsession with the end of the world. But at its core, it's a tale of how extreme ideas can cloud someone's judgment to the point of destruction. Allow me to begin by introducing you to Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, two individuals who, at first glance, appear to be completely normal. In addition to being a mother of 3, Lori led an independent and gregarious life. She had a charming personality and appeared to have everything under control. On the other hand, Chad was a writer who had published books that were about the end of the world. He also asserted that he had visions regarding spiritual matters, such as being able to determine who was good and who was evil. The question is, how did these two come to be together? Due to the fact that they both have a common interest in extreme religious beliefs. The teachings that Chad had developed regarding an impending apocalypse were extremely interesting to Lori, who was captivated by his ideas. As time went on, their friendship gradually evolved into something more, something that could potentially be harmful. There was more to this than just a love story. It was the beginning of something sinister. After meeting Chad, Lori began to undergo a transformation. She developed an unhealthy preoccupation with his concepts, such as the imminent end of the world and their position as the chosen ones to endure it. The fact that they allow these ideas to take control of their lives is what is frightening. A situation that was once about family and faith turned into a nightmare that no one could have anticipated. Let's move on to discussing Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow, the children who are at the center of this disaster. Tylee was Lori's daughter from a previous relationship, and she was a teenager at the time. She was vivacious, hilarious, and full of fun and energy. Lori's adopted son, JJ, was a charming young boy with autism who enjoyed playing and exploring. He was a joy to be around. These were the kinds of children that you would do anything in your power to safeguard. On the other hand, as Lori progressed further into Chad's world of doomsday prophecies, her relationship with her children began to undergo a transformation. Being older, Tylee started to notice that her mother was behaving in an odd manner. Lori discussed a variety of topics, including the existence of spirits, the contrast between light and dark people, and peculiar beliefs regarding the purification of the earth. While this was going on, JJ was a young child who was dependent on his mother, but Lori appeared to be more concerned with Chad and the ideas that he had. The children's friends and family later reported that they could see that they were terrified. Even when things started to get strange, Tylee made an effort to maintain her bravery. JJ was underage and therefore unable to comprehend what was taking place. On the other hand, they were in jeopardy, and, unfortunately, nobody realized how serious the situation was until it was already too late. Who exactly was this Chad Daybell? When I first met him, he appeared to be a typical guy. He was a writer and publisher in addition to being married and caring for his children. On the other hand, Chad was not writing typical books. His books were all about getting ready for the end of the world, and they were full of ideas about visions, prophecies, and spiritual warfare. Chad was under the impression that he possessed extraordinary abilities that allowed him to see beyond this life. Simply by looking at them, he asserted that he was able to determine whether a person was light or dark, which means either good or evil. Additionally, he discussed zombies. That's right, zombies. It was his belief that evil spirits could take control of people's bodies, and that in order to save the world, these individuals needed to be removed or eliminated. The moment Lori laid eyes on Chad, she was immediately captivated by his magnetic personality and the way he thought. She took every word that he spoken to be true. As a matter of fact, Chad revealed to Lori that they had been married in previous lives and that they were destined to be together. Chad was unquestionably followed by Lori, who was already becoming more and more inclined toward extreme religious ideas. The impact that Chad had was significant. Not only did he alter Lori's beliefs, but he also altered her entire world perception. Regrettably, this influence was responsible for laying the groundwork for the terrible events that would occur in the future. When viewed from the past, the warning signs were present everywhere. Lori began to behave in a different manner, becoming more secretive and concentrating more on Chad and his teachings than she did on her family. Her relationship with her children, which had been filled with love, became strained. In addition to claiming that Tylee and JJ were exceptional, she also made strange statements about them, such as claiming that they were possessed or that they were no longer the same children. What would it be like to listen to a mother talk about her own children in such a manner? The feeling was eerie. One more thing to consider is the weddings. Charles Vallow, who had been Lori's previous husband, had been a loving and attentive father to JJ. However, Lori began to accuse him of being dark and of being a participant in a malicious plot. When Charles attempted to get assistance and warn people about Lori's behavior, no one took him seriously enough to listen to him. After Charles even filed for divorce, claiming that Lori was a dangerous person, he was shot and killed by Alex Cox, who was Lori's brother. Before anything could happen, Charles was killed. Something about Lori's story didn't make sense, despite the fact that she claimed it was an act of self-defense. There was no one who couldn't see that something wasn't quite right at this point. The preoccupation that Lori had with Chad and his ideas about the end of the world was causing her life to become a mess and putting her children in danger. It was the day that Tylee and JJ vanished that everything began to change. Lies were the beginning of it. When people asked Lori about the children, she said that they were either staying with friends or attending a new school. But nobody ever saw them again. Members of the family became concerned. Colby, Lori's older son, was constantly inquiring about the whereabouts of his siblings. But Lori ignored his inquiries. The grandparents, particularly JJ's, were in a state of panic. When they were unable to get in touch with JJ, they knew that something was wrong because they loved him. The grandchildren of JJ made a request for a welfare check, which prompted the involvement of the police. Both Lori and Chad provided responses that were incomprehensible to the officers who questioned them. Although Lori asserted that JJ was in Arizona with a friend, it was later discovered that this was a fabrication. The behavior of Chad was also peculiar. He avoided answering questions and refused to cooperate. The media began to cover the story as the investigation progressed, and the entire country watched in horror as it unfolded. It was inconceivable to the people that a mother could conceal the whereabouts of her children. Or even worse, there was a straightforward inquiry that was asked by everyone. Where were Tylee and JJ? In this particular case, one of the most shocking aspects is the manner in which Lori and Chad's extreme beliefs turned into something that was very dangerous. They believed that they were chosen by God to prepare for the end of the world. And although they were just ordinary people with strong religious ideas, Lori and Chad were not ordinary people. The majority of people would consider their beliefs to be normal. But their beliefs went far beyond that. Lori and Chad discussed the concept of light and dark spirits, in which they evaluated individuals according to the spiritual energy that they believed they possessed. They were under the impression that dark spirits were dangerous and had the ability to take control of a person's body, transforming them into zombies. To make matters even more terrifying is the fact that Lori and Chad believed it was their responsibility to eliminate these dark spirits. It was a tragic turn of events when they began to view their own children as dark. For them, these were not merely strange concepts. Rather, they utilized them as a means of rationalizing their actions. It wasn't just about Lori and Chad in this situation. Among their followers was a small group of people who believed in the teachings that they had to offer. This brings up a more significant question. How is it possible for extreme beliefs such as these to develop and have such a profound impact on the lives of individuals? It is a terrifying thought to consider that what began as a source of faith evolved into a cult-like system in which causing harm to other people became a sense of mission. Not only Lori and Chad were involved in this tragic story, but there were also other people involved. Alex Cox, in addition to being Lori's brother, is one of the most essential individuals to comprehend. Alex had an unwavering commitment to Lori and strong faith in the teachings that Chad and she had imparted. A significant part of the sequence of events that led up to the tragedy was played by Alex. When Lori's husband Charles Vallow began to question Lori's beliefs and behavior. For instance, Alex became involved in the situation. He claimed that he was acting in self-defense when he shot and killed Charles. In spite of this, the investigators eventually discovered that Alex had been closely connected to a number of suspicious incidents, one of which was the disappearance of Tylee and JJ Vallow-Daybell. Chad's first wife was the next person on the list. Tammy was in good health and involved in a lot of activities, but she passed away unexpectedly under mysterious circumstances. Her death was initially ruled to be natural, but as time went on, the investigators began to develop suspicions. Within a mere 2 weeks of Tammy's passing, Chad tied the knot with Lori. Because of these important characters, the story became even more complicated. The beliefs of Lori and Chad were not the only thing that mattered. It was also about the people in their immediate environment who either supported their actions or did not stop them. The moment that the police discovered the remains of Tylee and JJ was a devastating moment. As investigators searched the property owned by Chad Daybell in Idaho, they discovered their bodies buried in the backyard of the property. The remains of Tylee were severely burned and dismembered, which established beyond a reasonable doubt that an attempt had been made to destroy evidence. After being wrapped in plastic and duct tape, JJ was discovered. Simply imagining what these children had to go through was a heartbreaking experience. It was even more difficult to comprehend how Lori and Chad responded to this discovery because of how they reacted. They appeared to be emotionless and calm, as opposed to displaying any signs of sorrow. They continued to act as if nothing had occurred, despite the mounting evidence that was produced against them. Everyone in the country was taken aback by this discovery. The extent to which Lori and Chad had gone in order to follow their twisted beliefs was beyond anyone's ability to believe. The fact that the remains were discovered on Chad's property made it abundantly clear that either one of them was deeply involved in the crime. The beginning of a protracted legal battle was the moment that Lori and Chad were taken into custody each. Along with Chad, Lori was charged with multiple offenses, including murder and conspiracy, while Chad was also facing charges that were comparable. When the prosecution presented their case in court, they painted a picture of two individuals who had used their extreme beliefs to justify terrible acts. In order to demonstrate how they planned everything, they presented evidence such as text messages that were exchanged between Lori and Chad. The defense made an attempt to argue that Lori and Chad were not doing what they were supposed to be doing. In the meantime, Chad's legal team attempted to distance themselves from the most serious allegations, while Lori's legal team asserted that she was mentally incapable of standing trial. It was a very emotional experience for everyone involved, especially for the families of the victims. By telling stories about Tylee and JJ and how much they were loved, they fought for justice and shared their experiences. When all was said and done, the evidence was overwhelming. Despite the fact that Lori and Chad were both found guilty, the legal process did not provide much solace to those who had suffered such a significant loss. As a result of their actions, Lori and Chad have brought up significant concerns regarding mental health and responsibility. Were they completely conscious of what they were doing? Or did their extreme beliefs indicate that they were struggling with more fundamental psychological issues? It appeared as though Lori, in particular, was living in a fantastical world. She asserted that she could hear the voice of God and assumed that she was on a divine mission. Nevertheless, does that justify what took place? There are a lot of people who believe that having problems with mental health does not justify hurting other people, especially your own children. Chad, on the other hand, gave off the impression of being manipulative and calculated. Through his charisma, he was able to persuade Lori and other individuals to adhere to his perverted ideas. Is it possible that he was mentally unstable? Or was he merely using his beliefs as a means of justifying his actions? Providing answers to these questions is not easy. On the other hand, they serve as a reminder of how vital it is to take mental health seriously and identify warning signs before it is too late. This case had a significant long-term effect on society. Because of this, it demonstrated how dangerous extreme beliefs can be if they are not checked. The story of Lori and Chad was not only about them. It was also about the ways in which their ideas led to the harm of their children, their families, and their community. The significance of advocating for oneself is a significant lesson. Lori's peculiar behavior was observed by a large number of people, but they did not take it seriously enough. It is possible that Tylee and JJ could have been saved if more people had taken action sooner. The risks associated with blind faith were also brought to light as a result of this case. However, when taken to extremes, religion can become a source of both hope and comfort. However, it also has the potential to become dangerous. Individuals need to acquire the ability to question ideas that appear to be harmful or irrational, regardless of where these ideas originate. Both Chad and Lori were found guilty after a lengthy trial that lasted several months. Their sentence of life in prison, without the possibility of parole, ensured that they would never again cause harm to another person. Although the verdict provided the families of the victims with a sense of justice, it was not enough to alleviate the pain that they felt from the loss of Tylee and JJ. In particular, their grandparents have exerted a great deal of effort in order to pay tribute to their memories and to advocate for changes in the system that will prevent harm to other children. Many individuals have been left contemplating the ways in which this tragedy could have been avoided as a result of the aftermath of the case. This serves as a reminder that when something does not feel quite right, it is essential to inquire about it and implement some sort of solution. The case is not just about Lori and Chad. Rather, it is about more significant problems that exist in society. What are some ways that we can prevent people from believing things that could go wrong? What are some ways that we can respect the faith of another person while also recognizing when it is harmful? Moreover, it serves as a timely reminder of the significance of community. When it comes to recognizing when something is wrong, friends, family, and neighbors all play a significant role. It may be difficult to speak up, but doing so could potentially save lives. As we come to the end of this tale, let us take a moment to reflect on a few significant questions. What led Lori and Chad to believe that they were acting in a morally responsible manner? What are some ways that we can assist individuals who are ensnared in harmful beliefs? What are some lessons that we can take away from this